Hey guys, Akiba back for another episode of the SlateCast. Today we're talking to Access Protocol about a new way to integrate your content into an on-chain environment, grow communities. I'm really excited about this. This is something that CryptoSlate is working with as well. So we've got a product coming out alongside Access Protocol. So this is just a podcast to go through the overviews of what it is. If you are a previous CryptoSlate Edge member, then this episode is going to be really important for you. So I really recommend that you give this a watch. Going to run the intro and then I'll bring Mika in. Hello, Mika. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for joining us. So, I mean, it's really exciting to be talking about Access Protocol. Say it's something that's been going on in the back end with CryptoSlate for a while now. Just want to give people a little bit of an overview of your background and exactly just what is Access Protocol.
Yeah, sure. So my own background is kind of computer sciencey and kind of crypto native. Really started sort of full time during the DeFi summer era. Built some toolings that were like popular in the community, like liquidity mining calculators and things like that for Compound and Balancer back in the day. And that's sort of how I got into the industry. Ended up at the Block on their research team, just writing about like how DeFi protocols are structured, sort of the scalability, L2s. That was more of the time when they weren't really ready yet, or as ready as they are today. And yeah, there got like also an inside look into sort of the media side of the business, though that's very different from the research side. Still like learned and understood more deeply, I think, the kind of common problems that people, I think, tend to know also a little bit on the periphery about like how media monetization goes and like issues around advertising and things like that. And yeah, then spent a year at Parafy Capital, a crypto investment firm, more on their like liquid investment side and also like sort of the data and more interesting strategies as well. And yeah, investing in startups and saw like that part of the industry as well. But yeah, ultimately I think I had the intuition to start building things and that's how I ended up leaving and starting Access Protocol, which I think comes from a lot of the ideas that we had sort of with just tossing around with the Blocks research team back in the day. Like, okay, if we were to do this for sort of crypto publications or so how would it work? And I think, yeah, this comes from a lot of those ideas, except sort of expands it to be really like an ecosystem of creators and publications. But yeah, to give an overview, basically the problem we're trying to solve is the kind of New York Times $24.99 B2C subscription that doesn't convert and no one wants to pay for. So this is sort of a classic problem where even like the top media companies tend to have like audience penetration rates of like 0.5% or 0.3% or something. And those are like some of the biggest names in the world, like Bloomberg and The Atlantic and so forth. So that's kind of the problem we're trying to solve. And the way we're solving it is basically with this ACS staking model, which works so that like the creator creates a staking pool, the user acquires ACS tokens and stakes them to them. And once they've staked, they receive access to some premium content sort of decided by the creator. And the idea there is kind of to change the relationship between the consumer and the creator, where the old relationship is where it's kind of value extractive, where you just pay. But this is instead like owning a part of the Access ecosystem and subscribing through that. Creators make money sort of indirectly on the revenue. There's like an inflation model and part of it goes to them. So it works for publishers as a recurring revenue side. But for the user side, when you stake, it's built so that you maintain the maximum amount of ownership as a percentage of the network as possible. So instead of just like paying and supporting, it's kind of like paying, supporting, and owning a part of the ecosystem as well.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you're launching because I believe, is it the 15th that you go live? Is that correct?
Yeah, we're looking at a launch in this quarter and are zeroing in on the date, but it should be quite soon.
Okay. Because you've got, like you say, ourselves at CryptoSlate, you've got the Block, CoinGecko, Crypto Briefing, Woo Blockchain. Like these are some of the biggest publications in the Web3 space. Is that just due to your background, having worked both the Block and the investment firms, or have you just seen a massive interest and a need for this?
I think we as like our team understand the problem pretty well and understand there's a market opportunity, particularly like on the B2C side, to really improve like revenue for this business. I think these businesses are also ones that are kind of in a very good position to experiment with something like this, because it's they actually have like really large audiences. Like if you think about the top DeFi protocols, they don't actually tend to have that many users. They just have like very large sort of whale kind of users. But crypto publications, for example, like receive a lot of page views, right? A lot of hits on the site. So we think of it as, okay, well, like we have a really good funnel of users, and we just need to build like a cool enough and a good enough and a simple enough experience to really onboard these people. So I think it's really like just a matter of solving like the problems that they're having. And I think, for example, if you look at kind of the normal ways that people try to solve subscriptions via Web3, it tends to be kind of like an NFT thing or something that's really like non-recurring. And really, we're trying to build something that's like recurring revenue, but also something that can like touch a really wide audience. Where if you think about like Time, for example, has been really active in the Web3 space with their NFT mints, but those NFTs, even though they've been kind of high value, and maybe that was also a good timing in the market in a way, it's a very few users that it connects to. But I think like with like this our model, there's an opportunity to bring like an order of magnitude more users, not into like as paying subscribers, but also kind of into like Web3 and crypto user experience.
So you mentioned briefly about the difference in terms of the benefit of access for sort of the companies versus the end user. Could you just expand on that a little bit for me in terms of, you talk about ownership. So what exactly are you owning as a consumer staking access tokens rather than, say, purchasing a subscription?
Yeah, so the kind of simple way to think about it, or like a mental model to build around it, is the access like token demand is tied to the subscription demand from the partners we onboard, from the creators we onboard, and the users they're able to onboard. So since we're sort of tied to that, and you're subscribing sort of with a token that is tied to that, you are tied to the overall interest in the ecosystem. So that way really changes the kind of common, where normally you would just like pay, right? You would pay $20 a month and that would be it. Here you do that in sort of an indirect way via token inflation, kind of like Bitcoin block rewards in a way, but like, but instead you maintain like ownership. So if you think like, for example, crypto will be big, and like all these publications that we're bringing on will get a lot more users, become a lot more mainstream, create a lot more demand for subscriptions, you are like own a part of that network here.
Okay. So could you just explain a little bit more around, so you talk about it being inflationary and that then allowing there for to be revenues, just for those that don't understand how that works?
Yeah. So you can think of it as like a simple example would be you have 100 ACS tokens, you stake them to a pool, and then you get to participate in the sort of inflation rewards that are fixed at kind of the ecosystem level and gets distributed to all the creators and the consumers. So when you stake your tokens, for example, to Crypto Slate, the revenue stream opens up where the half of the inflation starts going to you and the half of it goes to the publication. So from the publication side, you can view this as they're like capturing a part of the ecosystem, capturing value from it via the inflation. And then from the user side, you can think that you kind of can't hold the token in any way, speculate on it, but you, if you want, but you have to support one of the publication, because otherwise you're kind of like diluted away, right? So you're always, if you hold the token, you always have to kind of support the publications and help their revenue as well. So that's like how the model works.
So does that mean you expect the price of the token, say denominated in dollars, to go down over time rather than up?
So I would say, I would say that like the way to think about it is that we don't expect there to be like a negative effect in terms of like so much supply coming onto the market that it's like unhealthy, because like that reward rate, you can think of it as it's kind of the equivalent of what the Bitcoin block rewards have been. So and like that's been like completely fine. So it just means that like given even like small ecosystem growth, like you'd expect the growth to outpace like the sort of ongoing other side of it in a way.
Okay, cool. And what about utility in terms of the companies? So, like, if you've got the rewards going to like the block, CoinGecko, CryptoSlate, etc., if those companies are then liquidating the tokens to pay bills, is that not going to create downside potential as well?
Yeah, so there I would say that first, like the partners that we're bringing on, this is like a whole and kind of their business model. So it's like a new category for them in a
Hmm.
way. And because they want like the category to succeed, they're sort of incentivized to own a part of the network because that's how they like that. That's like the best way for them to like move forward.
Okay.
In the long term, when you like hit a plateau, you can sort of have those kinds of effects. But again, like I think it's more like you'll see the Bitcoin block reward kind of thing being like the dominant effect in a way where it's not like this huge like supply that comes all the time into the market, but it's like the like a few percent per year and more in that direction. But from the
Hmm.
creator side, it's more I think kind of like a base layer of monetization in a way where you can set this up and have like uh, your recurring revenue and try to get like a lot of users through that. But then you can also like interestingly really put like value add strategies on top. So
Hmm.
because like in the normal scenario where it's like only value extractive, you kind of as a consumer always want to pay the minimum amount, and as the creator you kind of want the maximum, of course. But
Hmm.
in this system, because it's more of a percentage ownership of the network, if you think that like crypto site is really great, crypto briefing is really great, they'll bring a lot of demand into the system. There's no actual like reason why to you would just own the minimum. You could own a lot more than that. And when you own a lot more than that, and this is what we talk about is like a super staker dynamic, which is that
Okay.
like these publications can like create a really interesting incentive structures where okay, like the top 10% or people who stake over like 3 times a certain threshold that we've set, those are like special users. They get access to like special NFT mints or like events or things like that. So you can like layer lots of these strategies that are kind of like maybe one-off or like kind of like really like loyalty programs on top of this once
Hmm.
you have like the sort of baseline interest of people staking.
So that's similar to something like Patreon or something where you have tiers of subscriptions. You could have tiers of staking.
Yeah, exactly.
So that moves perfectly onto what I wanted to ask next, which is what do you see as the real intrinsic benefits over off-chain solutions like, say, Patreon, where you can grow a community, you can offer additional rewards based on activity. What do you see as the main benefits over those?
Yeah, I would say in Web3 overall, it is like the concept of ownership and being able to own a part of an ecosystem, especially like early on. That's really like the benefit because here, like you, when you subscribe to things, you're also own a part of the entire Axis ecosystem, and so you can benefit from the fact that like we have great publications that will bring on a lot more users, and
Hmm.
that ownership is like really powerful, and I think has really driven a lot of kind of the innovation in a way in the space
Hmm.
where not just in like mainly actually to up to date like in DeFi and that sort of thing. So I think like that idea is like really powerful and basically the hypothesis is that here that ownership will make the consumer subscription much more enticing. And really what we're competing against is against again that $24.99 a month 0.4% penetration rate subscription that doesn't work. So we know the existing model doesn't work at all. Everyone would want to get out of it. So this offers like an alternative. And I would say that based on, for example, we've been running this program with CoinGecko where users are able to
Hmm. The candies.
convert from their candies to their to like a locked ACS subscription for a year, which is tokens, and they've seen very good success in terms of growing that newsletter. So
Hmm.
that's a first really good data point for us that okay, like we're hitting something where this can actually work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, in terms of the sort of the ecosystem in general, what do you feel will be the key drivers, and is it something you're looking to do in terms of bringing creators from outside of Web3? into access? Because obviously currently the people that are an amazing list of people that are the initial creators joining are Web3 natives. Is this something that you think works for people that, aside from creating content, are purely Web2 creators?
Absolutely. Over time, I would say there's a couple of different buckets, and we kind of have like products to suit each of them. The first one is kind of like the access publication product, or like the full site integration, which is the kind that you'll see on a lot of like the publications, for example. And that one, if you think about who the next audience is, and more like, for example, tech journals or things that go outside of crypto, I think really the strongest point we can make is like a case study of the revenue it's able to generate for publications, and then go to them because they have like that like a bit more conservative, but also in a position where they are willing to experiment, I think, with like interesting business models because it hasn't worked for them previously. So that's something we're looking at, but we know it's going to be like a work in progress in a way to really get there. And it's also a user experience hurdle where we do a lot of things for users, like we abstract gas fees away. If you don't know what like a phantom wallet is or something, you can just Google sign in basically, and you can get and you have like credit card onboarding. So we're trying to make those as seamless as possible. They're not perfect yet in like Web3, but over time I think they will be, and we're trying to push it sort of as far as is possible. And then the other kind of products we're building, that's on the publisher side, but we're also building a tooling for individual creators. You can think in the direction of a like Substacky thing where you have to publish and just put our paywall on top of it. And then also, and this will be ready at launch already, a Discord community product, which allows you to do basically the kind of token gated, if you have like a token gated paywall on the publication site, therefore the Discord version is like a token gated membership role to a server or a channel or something like that. So there, for example, I think you can see already potentially like a crossover for use cases where those groups, there are lots of like interesting Discords within crypto, but also there are like very tech native kind of Discords, right? That are just one step away and could like be willing to try something like this. So there's a couple of different avenues, and all of those I think offer an opportunity like in a different way in terms of business development on how to really bring this. And I think we're just trying to build the first kind of product on Access Protocol to open that gateway, but it's also a protocol, right? So we want to actually encourage others to have the opportunity to build on top as well, where it becomes much more of an ecosystem of applications. We're just our like developmental company is just the first one to really push these things out.
So, in terms of user experience, that is something I did want to get your opinion on. How do you view the current state of the sort of the user experience across Web3 in general, and what challenges have you faced in building access
I would
around
say
the
that
UX?
I would say that there's a certain percentage of the population for whom like the kind of crypto UX hurdles don't feel that bad, like when you're native in it and you've been there for a while. But then it does require something a little bit different to really get like the mainstream user. So the way we kind of frame this is that we're already in front of millions of users when we launch, right? And crypto publications have a lot of users, and they actually kind of, interesting, like I said earlier, have more users than even the top protocols by like TVL or something like that. So we are in front of a lot of users, and then it's just a number, right? What are we able to convert? And trying to make that as simple as possible. And there, I think the abstraction of gas fees is definitely number one, because if you're getting a subscription, it's kind of like you also have to buy like ETH or SOL or something. That's kind of weird, right? The second part is the credit card onboarding, where you first, like using a DEX may be complex, or second, like just using Binance or like any exchange to buy tokens may not be in the periphery of like an average reader as well. So that's like an interesting thing. And then the third one is really the wallet creation process and key management. I think there's still a lot of work to be done on just getting key management to a level where it's really good and secure. But I think for a consumer application like this, something like like we have email login and Google login that's possible via Web3 auth. It's kind of the next best thing that you can have, and it's it works well for kind of the subscription amounts and that sort of thing. Even though you may not want to hold your entire net worth on like a Google email, but I think it does its job here where it's convenient at least.
Fantastic. So, what's the future vision for Access? What, in an ideal world, what does 2024 look like?
Yeah, I would say vision and 2024. 2024 feels a lot like still like execution in a way where we know that we can bring a certain number of publishers in and like grow that side of the protocol. We have a 2,000 person wait list already for the individual creator platform, so we know we want to do a guarded launch there as well to get like the quality of content and sort of obviously like the product quality and things like that. Like things take time. And then like Discord side as well, where where there's just certain number of these Discords that we want to reach immediately. So I think a lot of the first kind of next year here will be really fixing all the kind of edges and like doing these guarded launches where we are growing, but growing in like a steady state way. But ultimately, we want to get to a point where the protocol is fully permissionless. There's no like allow listing that who gets put onto the platform or anything like that. And it's just fully community run, and it's a protocol. It runs on its own. And not only are we building these products that are hopefully successful then, but also you could have someone else build like for a specific type of creator, for example, you could build just that app and put this in as a monetization layer. Or this could be used as a monetization layer in kind of existing platforms already and having like those kinds of integrations. So I think the road is like twofold. It's one where growing and perfecting and making sure the protocol works and incentivize the things that we really want to. And then second, really going into that phase where we open it up and hopefully let the sort of organic network effect take over.
Fantastic. So you're launching in Q1. You say the date's not fully finalized. When do you expect to have a date, and where can people find out and keep up so that they can see when that's actually going to happen?
Yeah, sorry to give like an announcement, but very soon. I would say that is true. And then to follow us, the fastest or the easiest way is like via Medium, medium.com/access protocol and twitter.com/access protocol. Both of those have all our like partnership announcements and also kind of frequently asked questions around how do we onboard creators. If you're a creator, how to get onboarded. If you're a creator, like we're happy to meet you. So please message us. And yeah, those have all the information and will be updated to let everyone know when we launch. We also have a pretty active Discord, so feel free to join that. It's not access gated yet, but maybe there will be a channel that is quite soon.
Fantastic. Well, for anyone that is interested, and in my view, they should be, because this is going to be a great launch with some of the biggest publications in the space. CryptoSlate is obviously also working on something in the background to launch. You can see our logo on the Access Protocol website. And as a result of that, we will be doing more pieces of content to help onboard people into the space, understand how to use it, so that when our product comes out, hopefully you're feeling really nice and familiar with it, and hopefully there are no onboarding hurdles to deal with, although I'm sure we'll find some. Mika, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the SlateCast. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, I suppose not. I got everything out of the way, but yeah, we're working really hard towards launch, and hopefully we will have a date soon, and the products will be pretty great to start already.
Brilliant. I don't doubt that it will. Okay, well, guys, for this episode of the SlateCast, that's it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And also, maybe keep an eye out for getting some of your Access tokens ready for when CryptoSlate goes live on Access, and you can stake to us and enjoy a brand new suite of products and information that the team is working really hard in the background. And we'll give you updates on that when we can. But for this episode, Mika, thank you very much, and we'll see you all again next time.
Thank you.